As markets move on-chain, TradFi and crypto markets are converging on Canton, the world's biggest institutions, highest quality assets, and on-chain innovators already here, the first public blockchain network with privacy. Every 2 weeks, we'll showcase the applications and use cases shaping the future of finance. The ecosystem is growing, new markets are forming, and this is just the beginning. Welcome to the Canton Buildcast, where new connections create new possibilities. Are stablecoins eating finance? This week we catch up with Jim Thompson on how Bitwave's platform helps institutions building on Canton stay financial audit ready, how to capture the value of on-chain payments, and why a privacy-enabled B2B payment network is really critical to scaling adoption. There's more to build and connections to be made, so come and find your place on Canton. Let's go.
Hi, I'm Ben Singh Gerald, and I'm here today with Jim Thompson, CRO of Bitwave. Hi, Jim.
Hey, Ben. Good to be here.
In this build class, we're going to cover everything from the current state of on-chain payments, how Bitwave is supporting some of the fundamentals in the on-chain economy, the exciting work they're doing on Canton, of course, and a preview of some of the cool things to come too. Jim, how are you doing, my friend? I feel we're in a real moment of acceleration at the moment in the on-chain payment space.
Doing great. Good to be here. Feels like a lot of excitement generally about on-chain payments, on-chain activity, institutional adoption, and certainly with Canton. So it's a good time to be chatting about this.
Cool. Well, we're seeing a lot of PSPs, payment service providers, fintechs in B2B payments, really starting to battle it out around stablecoins in particular. We've seen Stripe acquire Bridge, MoonPay acquiring Iron recently. As a firm that's really supporting enterprises in the integration of this kind of on-chain movement of money into day-to-day payment operations, what are you guys seeing as the critical jobs to be done to really capitalize on this huge opportunity? And how are you guys at Bitwave helping enterprises to take advantage of all this exciting opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll start from the beginning if that helps. I mean, we were founded in 2018 with the mission really to enable digital assets for enterprises and institutions. And so the way that enterprises and institutions have engaged on chain has obviously varied and kind of ebbed and flowed over the last 6 or so years since then, from Bitcoin mining to NFTs, tokenization, staking, gaming, all kinds of things. But fundamentally at Bitwave, we've been in the business of working with the CFO stack. So think controller, accounting, tax, audit, any of the financial reporting that a business that's engaged on the blockchain or engaging with digital assets really needs to think about. So our core product, we've acted as a subledger that really seamlessly integrates to digital assets into the core ERP and allows a finance team to do everything that they need to do in between. And fast forward to today, we really have the market leading digital asset finance platform used by hundreds of customers, institutions, enterprises alike, from crypto native to trads that are getting into the space. And to answer your question, we see this as a critical job to be done, because if an institution can't pass an audit, if they can't talk to their advisors about it, then they won't be able to fully adopt blockchain technology. And that's where folks like us and digital asset and everyone in the Canton ecosystem really gets excited to help and make sure that folks can enter the space. So specifically, to payments, we've seen payments and tokenization really take off as real product market fit, let's say, for institutions thinking about blockchain. And so as we built out our on-chain B2B payment software, that really builds off of our core functionality around connecting to the ERP to bring in things like invoices and chart of accounts that we'll talk a little bit about, letting around things like workflow approvals and KYT checks, reconciliation. So similar to the Canton network, we're really looking to meet institutions at the first point of entry into the blockchain. And that's where we want to help them and engage in a way that's compliant and matches their institutional requirements.
That's great, Jim. And Bitwave was really one of the first firms to jump into the Canton network. And you play an important role in the Global Synchronizer Foundation too, actively involved in everything that goes on at the foundation level. Tell us a bit about what attracted Bitwave to Canton, the first things you really got up and running to support the network, the participants in the network. How are you helping people realize the opportunities in the Canton network specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, building off of my last comment around, we want to be where the institutions are engaging with blockchain for the first time. We were really attracted to Canton in a number of different ways, from a technology perspective as well as a go-to-market perspective, because of the network of network approaches, and really taking this approach on privacy and interoperability that financial institutions so clearly need. A lot of that energy and excitement is really happening around Canton. So that's both from our existing ecosystem and network that we talk to, as well as new folks that we're engaging with. So the first thing we wanted to do, as you stand up a network, you're thinking about super validators and validators, is really making sure that we're properly supporting those finance teams in a way that they need as they start to generate rewards and revenue on chain in a high volume way. So we're looking for efficiency, automation, and compliance as we do this. So we work directly with the digital asset team, who has really been incredible to work with from a technology and a people perspective, to stand up a mirror node. We actually stood up our own validator to run these transactions on the network. And we did this even in the testnet phase to make sure that we would be ready and engaged as institutions went live. We also wanted to engage with partners that we work with, folks like RSM and Deloitte, that are alliance partners, to start talking about the technical accounting and tax implications and things that institutions would be talking about and asking about. So we're now fully up and running, operational with our own validator. We're working with other super validators and validators supporting them. We're talking to folks about different featured applications that they're building. We'll talk a little bit about what we're thinking about building, and just really excited to continue to enhance our integration in the product as new types of transactions and metadata and rewards and applications are launched on the platform.
Can you take us on a bit of a walkthrough of the integration so far and explain what this really means for organizations like the app providers we've mentioned, the validators and the app users as well in the network?
Okay, sounds good. So let's take a look at Bitwave. You're here on the home screen. This is an accounting platform. So for folks that are financial professionals that have used other similar ERP tools, this is going to look exactly like you'd expect. This is a demo instance that's tailored to the Canton network that's pulling in live Canton data. So we're going to keep it pretty high level for today's purpose, but we're going to talk briefly about data and how we add a party ID and bring that Canton information directly into the platform. We're going to take a look at some of the accounting feature functionality and then some of the tax and financial reporting that you need. At the end of the day, just a reminder, this is a subledger that exists for digital asset purposes that will then integrate into traditional finance systems and traditional processes for financial professionals. So on the home screen here, you're going to have different information that you need around assets, in and out, accounting information. But really, we're going to hop in and take a look at adding a Canton wallet. So you can see here, we have different types of integrations that bring data into the platform. Future state, as Canton support with different custodians and exchanges, will bring that data in as well. But you see here, Canton, I'm going to go ahead and type in a wallet name, Jim Thompson. Wallet address is where I'd add my party ID. And this is really all you need to do, thanks to the hard work that our engineers have done to build this direct integration into the platform. There's going to be a heavy amount of configuration, customization that you'd work with our implementation team. Things like, do I want to roll up my transactions? If you're running a validator and you're seeing transactions every 10 minutes, that's a lot of volume. You may not want to move all of that into your ERP. So really different considerations as you get set up on bringing the data in, pricing, accounting, you'll talk about with our team. But that's how you start to get the data into the platform. So now we'll take a look at, I'm going to hop over here and take a look at transactions. This is a transactions view that's going to show you all of these different digital asset transactions that are happening on the blockchain. You'll see different pieces of this that show you, is this an inflow? Is this an outflow? Is there a transaction ID? What point in time did this happen with a timestamp, which could be important for audit readiness purposes? You'll see which wallet it came from, which wallet it went to, a ticker, in this case, Canton, obviously, an amount, and then a fair market value. In this case, in this demo instance, we actually have 0 here because that is a highly configurable piece of how you want to price the asset, right? So especially on new networks, new tokens that are launched, that's a process you can go through with your advisors. That's something you may do internally. We certainly have best practices, different ways to pull in pricing information from aggregators, from specific exchanges, as well as from different rate tables that you can upload. But as you click into a specific transaction, you're going to see more information about what's taking place on the blockchain. You'll see things like contacts and categories. Those are not originated in Bitwave. Those are actually being pulled in via API from your ERP. So if you have contacts and categories in Oracle that you're already using, we're pulling that into the Bitwave platform to allow you to do your digital asset accounting in a way that matches your fiat accounting. So there's lots of different custom configurations around how you handle this. At the end of the day, you're going to want to automate this accounting process as much as possible, right? So earlier we talked about how do we make sure this is compliant? How do we make sure it's automated? So there'll be rules that you can create in the system. I'll go ahead and hit one open right now. Again, lots of configurability around this, but this is a revenue rule attached to different wallets, attached to a certain asset, attached to a direction of coming inbound that you can set up to automate that accounting process that you then review in some standard close period.
So what are some of the sticking points, Jim, that you've seen for people that are looking to integrate other digital assets into their ERP backends, into their treasury operations, that kind of thing. What are some of the like what are the top three things that you think people really need to think about that you guys are solving with Bitwave?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, first and foremost, fundamentally, traditional financial systems are not built to handle blockchain activity, right? And so as we talk to traditional institutions, they've even engaged their TradFi systems to say, hey, when are you planning to support Bitcoin even? And the answer is often not anytime soon. And so that's really where we serve a critical gap to act as that bridge between the blockchain and these ERPs, as well as all this hyper-specific accounting, FX functionality, things that may apply specifically to digital assets that don't apply with traditional fiat assets. So it often all starts with data. Do I know where my wallets are? Do I have my custodial information? Do I have my exchange information? Have I aggregated all of that in one place? And then it's how do I price these assets? If we think about, again, a traditional financial system doesn't have enough digits in the UI to even go out to be able to track, a Canton coin transaction and things like that. So it talks about data, aggregating that data, pricing that data, and then accounting for it properly and really the financial reporting around it. So maybe that's four, but those are some of the things that you need to think about as you start to bring digital assets onto your books as a financial professional.
Yep.
All right, so that covers our transactions. We're going to take a quick look at some of the financial reporting. I'm just going to bring up a sample, what we call an inventory view here. If you're familiar with other traditional financial systems, you may think about like multi-book accounting that you may do in Oracle or SAP of tracking your accounting for accounting purposes, for tax purposes. This is a view giving you a look at all of your assets in the platform, right? And so there's a lot that we do for spam filtering and different things to pick up the right assets, but it's showing you your assets, the quantity of those assets, the cost basis at which you've acquired it, any cost basis around disposal. And then you can click through this view to give you all the things you need from an action standpoint, from lots and additional reporting. So this actions is going to give you more information around the status, the wallet, the inventory, the transaction ID. This is really everything that you need in order to properly do your work internally as a financial professional. It's also often the kind of reporting, like a cost basis roll forward report, that you need at your time to close your books, or things that your auditors might ask you for if they're inspecting revenue that you've recognized, an example of a Canton validator, or wanting to take a look at transactions of money that you've moved on chain. So this is, all kinds of different configure reporting in the platform to make sure your finance team feels good and that your audit team feels comfortable with the activity that's taking place.
Thanks, Jim. It's awesome. I think just seeing the real world view of how people are ingesting this stuff in their backends, it just plays such an important role to moving from this kind of purely on-chain world into people really realizing how they can utilize these new assets and workflows within their day-to-day operations. And obviously we've talked a little bit about stablecoins. I think I'd like to touch on that a little bit more. You've been seeing firms using things like stablecoins and other assets for things like payroll, to pay and receive vendor payments. One of the kind of emerging and defining themes, I think, of 2025 is going to be privacy, right? And I think this is something that we talk about every day at Canton, and it's one of the reasons, obviously, we've partnered with you guys. We've talked a lot about privacy over the time we've been together. What are the challenges that you've really seen with trying to work around some of the transparency issues around things like stablecoin payments today? And do you have any examples where there's maybe risks or struggles that you're seeing with enterprises that are starting to think about these new assets from a payments perspective? And how do you see Canton helping to solve some of those challenges that you've seen?
Yeah, absolutely. And happy to chat about this. We were actually just talking about this at ETH Denver. We had a B2B Payments Day event with some traditional finance folks, like PayPal was there, who has launched their own stablecoin, of course. Ben, and folks like Google and Deloitte and Anchorage talking about various challenges in scaling on-chain adoption for B2B payments. And privacy was a huge topic, right? And one of the reasons it's kind of fun that privacy has become a topic is because that means that there's really activity happening now on-chain, right, between these businesses for different use cases, where as it starts to scale, ironically, the more that becomes an issue, right? So a couple of the specific examples we've seen, as we've talked about, we've actually built out now a B2B on-chain payments product. We're providing the software and the workflow, enabling businesses to do this on chain. And what we've seen is traditional companies that are now willing to accept stable coins are running into this, right? So we had an example of a large crypto native payer paying an advisory partner for some services on chain and stables. And the advisory partner was happy to accept stablecoins, but they ran into an issue of, I don't want the market to actually know how much I'm charging for these services, right? There's reasons why businesses keep this kind of information confidential. So it's resulted in different things and different use cases. In this one, it was more of, issuing partial payments, right? And so while that's fine, that's a step in the right direction, it's not actually realizing the full efficiency and value transfer on the blockchain. We've seen other situations, had a conversation last week with somebody that's actually spinning up individual wallets on a vendor by vendor basis. Again, it may work in some capacity, but as you start to scale that, you really need a better way to do that. So that's one of the reasons that we're really excited about the Canton network and what's already been built here and being adopted by institutions is how can we apply this privacy layer, but as well this interoperability to institutions and enterprises that are serious about moving volume on chain, both with tokenization and this B2B payments use case. But doing so in a private way. So looking at how we can integrate Canton into this platform and then really get more and more customers and vendors and more volume being moved on chain.
Yeah, cool. And obviously we've seen Canton Coin as being this first kind of step with some of the integration work, but I'm assuming that will extend and is starting to extend to other assets on the network so that people can benefit from those privacy benefits of moving these assets around with that real data segregation and privacy that you expect on Canton, and still getting all the benefits of Bitwave at the back end as well.
Yeah, exactly right. And for us, it's really a natural extension. Like I said at the beginning of, we've been solving problems for the CFO stack that's engaged with digital assets. And that started with accounting and tax and those things that we just took a look at. And now it's extending into this just very real use case of folks wanting to move on chain, whether it's a cross-border contractor payment or domestic B2B payment. So it's something that we're really excited about and I think fits in really well with a lot of the investments and folks, the really smart folks in the Canton network that are building, like Braille, who you had on a few weeks ago. Everyone, of course, saw the Circle news and pending stablecoins that will come there. So we're excited to be building an application layer for enterprises and institutions to then engage with those assets that are being built and will be launched on the network. So a lot more to come on this probably through the rest of the year, but it's an exciting topic for us.
Yeah, awesome. I'm gonna push you a little bit. You mentioned the Bitwave payment network. Can you expand a little bit on that? What does that mean? How does that dovetail with Canton? And obviously that's a network you guys are building for payments. But where do the two worlds come together?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, in the consumer world, if you will, a lot of folks are looking for those applications, right? Like I just mentioned. And so when we think about that from an enterprise and institutional world, there's a lot of folks investing in the infrastructure around stablecoins, the ability to, mint stablecoins and move them on chain, but sometimes missing some of the reality of what it takes to actually get to full scale adoption. And so we're trying to solve that on both the payer and the vendor side. So on the payer side, that's our software and that's our workflow that we're building. But at the same time, if you're a payer that wants to make on-chain stablecoin payments, you need vendors that are willing to accept. You need vendors that know how to do this and are willing to take that payment. So we're really focused, and we launched the ETH Denver, our B2B payments network, and we'll be building that out this year around payers, vendors that are willing to accept that as a form of payment, and then also partners that are reducing friction or adding value in different points of this process that may be needed, like on-ramping or off-ramping or swapping or bridging or different things that might be taking place for an on-chain B2B payment. So we're really excited to be building that on Canton and be working with folks in the Canton ecosystem, and a lot more to come about that the rest of this year.
Awesome, Jim. Thank you so much. Really, looking forward to seeing what's next with the payment network. Really excited to see that come into Canton and what you're going to continue to enable for the ecosystem. You already have an early access version of that for people to start testing it out using Bitwave today to start to understand how that can bring value to their business, right? We
do. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out to me directly or go to bitwave.io. I'm Jim.Thompson at bitwave.io, and let us know. We'd love to get you involved.
Cool. We can have you back again, right, to talk about this in the future.
We'd love to be back. We're excited about where B2B payments is headed the rest of the year, where Canton is headed itself, and we're all here for the innovative technology. But at the end of the day, it still takes people, and we're just really excited to be working with the really smart and talented people in the Canton network, and specifically at Digital Asset, who are building this out. So great to be here. Thanks for having me on, and looking forward to keeping this conversation going.
Thanks so much, Jim. Speak soon.
It's a wrap for this episode of the Canton Buildcast. Want to dive deeper? Check out the links below to learn more, connect to apps, or bring your assets and use cases to Canton. And don't forget to hit subscribe to stay on top of the latest apps and opportunities shaping institutional grade on-chain finance. Bye for now.